In this video, we're going to cover some of the most commonly asked questions we get about SOT. Let's get right into it. First, what is SOT? SOT stands for Supportive Oligonucleotide Technique. I did make another video about this that kind of goes into a lot more detail, and I'll put a link here so that you can go ahead and check that out. But just to give you a short definition right here, SOT uses microRNA to silence genes within bacteria or viruses. So essentially that microRNA is a small complementary strand of RNA that will only attach to a very specific gene within that bacteria. When the RNA attaches, it renders that RNA in the bacteria essentially useless, unable to code for proteins and enzymes and things that the bacteria needs to survive. And in doing so, then actually kills that bacteria. Is SOT anything like an mRNA vaccine, such as the COVID vaccine? The short answer to this is no. The long answer is these two things are much different. MicroRNA and mRNA in these situations are not doing the same thing. mRNA vaccines work by injecting mRNA or messenger RNA into the body, which then codes for viral proteins. So your body will then produce these viral proteins, such in the case of COVID, we're talking about the spike protein. Your immune system then recognizes this protein as a foreign object and creates antibodies to fight against that, so that when you are infected by the actual virus, then these antibodies will work against that. So your body is actually going through an immune response, which is a lot of the reason why we get side effects and things like that from some of these vaccines. MicroRNA is not a complete strand of mRNA. It does not code for anything. It does not produce an immune response. It simply attaches to the mRNA within the specific target organism, silencing that gene. So very different from an mRNA vaccine. Can SOT treat all of my infections? SOT can treat a lot of different infections, but one SOT can only treat one particular bacteria or virus. Because the genetic material of each bacteria and virus is different, it would be almost impossible to create a microRNA that would then be able to attach to the mRNA in multiple organisms. In order to treat each infection, you do need a different SOT for each one. Why does RGCC need my blood if they also require a recent positive test? So one of the things that you have to do in order to get an SOT made is you have to have a positive test showing that there is this particular bacteria or virus present. And then you also have to send a blood sample over to the lab at RGCC, which is over in Greece, so that they can then create the SOT. So a lot of people ask us why that is. If you've already got a positive lab, why do you need to send a blood sample as well? So before an SOT is made, RGCC confirms the presence of the target organism by doing a qualitative PCR test on that blood sample. And they run it in triplicate, meaning they run it 3 times and look for that particular organism. So there is a chance that even with a positive test, they may not be able to create an SOT. Now, my experience has been that they've been able to in each of the cases that I can think about, but there is that possibility. So they use both the lab test as a starting point, and then they also use their own lab tests to confirm that. Why does RGCC need a recent positive test if they're also going to test my blood sample? That's a good question. Why not just send it over there and have them test it and do the treatment right then and there, right? Well, from a clinician's perspective, I don't simply rely on lab results to tell me what needs to be treated. You treat the person, not the test. Especially when we're dealing with multiple infections, clinical judgment is really important in determining which organisms we are targeting. So prior to recommending and ordering an SOT, I need to be confident that what we're going after is actually what's causing the problem. So that is my take on the reasoning behind why we don't just simply send everything over and let them do what they're going to do with it and then send us the SOT based on their lab findings. It's a clinical judgment, it's a clinical decision, and they require us to make that decision prior to ordering an SOT. So that's it for this time. Thanks for watching, and I hope these questions and answers were helpful for you. If you have further questions, please leave them in the comments. I'd be glad to come back and answer some of those for you, and maybe we'll even get enough to do another video. Until next time.